Let's start by, I'll turn it over to you, Frank, and if you want to make some opening comments, and then we'll start the show.
All right. Well, I want to welcome all the UMUC students. This session is specifically for UMUC and primarily for the ASCM 629 and 631 courses. Each of those two courses do a different simulation, with ASCM 629 doing Cincinnati seasonings, and then ASCM 631 staff leading the charge with collaborative logistics. But the common underlying theme is that UMUC not only wants to communicate the course content, but give you an opportunity to learn how logistics systems work. It's applying many of the reading principles, and the SCM Globe does that very well by showing you the key attributes of a supply chain and the challenges to try to balance that supply chain so that it functions smoothly. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Michael, and if anybody else wants to speak up, that's great.
Well, maybe I'll start by asking some questions, and if people are having, you can always type in answers into the chat box. First is, has everyone been able to activate their account and log on and go through the getting started material? Maybe the people, just people who are having trouble with log on. I know we fielded a couple of email questions, which email was registered in the last few days. Is anyone still having login questions or problems? If someone is, type it into the chat box and we'll get that handled right away.
It looks like Myra has an issue.
Yep. Oh. Myra, can you let us know what that is?
Here, maybe what I'll, yeah, can you type that in on the chat box? Or
He hasn't been able to register, so Mike, just go through how to register.
All right. What I'm going to do now, so you all got, now we all have multiple email addresses, and I always forget which one I give out to people, but try them all. We got a list of all of your email addresses that you provided to UMUC several weeks ago, and we registered you all. So what I'm going to do now is, everything really is online, and I always say if you can handle the first 30 minutes, you're going to love it. But the first 30 minutes, of course, we'll test everyone's patience, because who needs to learn a new app? Anyway, you go to scm.globe, scmglobe.com, and actually, you ought to figure out right now if you can put my screen in one window, and then on your own computer, all of you now go to your accounts, and those still having a little problem with your accounts, we'll walk through registering, and then we'll all get up and running. So as we go through the evening, when you ask questions, I'll demonstrate the answer online with the software. You can see what I'm doing, then do it alongside me. Do it on your own account, on your own PC. So that way it'll be an active learning experience. When you go to scmglobe.com, you click on that Get Started Now button right there. And what that's going to do is open up the Getting Started section. Literally, what we're going to do is draw the supply chain on a map of the world. That map is Google Maps. And then we're going to click the simulation button, and it will show us how the supply chain works. When you look to the left side of the screen, note the table of contents. Now we're going into our 6th year now. Maybe it's our 7th year, I forget. Anyway, we have the benefit of a lot of really good feedback from students and instructors over the years. There's a lot of information here. We don't expect you to learn it all at first. There's no point in that. We have taken the information and broken it up into small bite-sized pieces, and everything is always a mix of screenshots, words, screenshots, diagrams, etc. So when you, just FYI, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on that Getting Started, but know always that the online guide has a wealth of information which you can learn when you need to know it after you get the Getting Started, because that's what you need to know to just get started. when you look at the getting started, here's how it works. Scan the material on this page. There are 6 buttons in the Fast Track Quick Start section, which we'll look at in a second, in 15 to 30 minutes. And I do mean 15 to 30 minutes. That's consistently the feedback we've been getting over the last several years. Students seem to take 15 and instructors take a little bit longer, but that's what we're seeing. Now, the heart of the whole thing, everything is the central core of these simulations is these 4 entities or entity classes: products, facilities, vehicles, and routes. You can define each of them with a small handful of data, and then of course you can define an almost infinite number, and then you combine them, place them on a map of the world, and you have a mathematically rigorous model of your supply chain, which we then submit to the simulation engine, and it will show you how it works. So here's the Fast Track Quick Start. There are 6 steps, and here they are, steps 1, 2, 3. I won't go through all of them because you can do that at any time. Number 1, activate your account. And I assume most of you have. If any of you are having issues, here it is. It's all laid out. Check that out. The very first time, you're going to click on register, and then you're going to go through and you're going to enter your name and your email address. That's where you want to make sure you enter the email address that we got from UMGC that's been registered. If people are having an issue this evening, go ahead. Anyone who's still not logged on, send us a note on the chat box. We'll get it fixed before the end of the evening. Then, it'll challenge you to make sure you're not a robot, and then you click on sign up, and you will come to your account management screen. At that point, you'll notice all your navigation buttons are always in the upper right corner of every screen. You'll click on one called View Library. So anyway, I'm not going to go through all that. It's all here, relatively painless. Like I say, if you can survive the first 30 minutes, which will be fear-inspiring, knuckle whitening, etc. But if you can survive that first 30 minutes, you're going to start to like it. So when I go back to that getting started, and of course there are approximately 1 million ways to find everything online, deliberately so. So whenever people say, oh, I looked but I couldn't find it, what that means is no, you didn't look. So there's 1 million ways to find everything. There's links scattered throughout. There is always the table of contents here. There's an abbreviated menu up top. So there you are. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to log in. So I'm just going to click on that login button again, upper right corner. So once you've registered, it's all, you'll come here, you won't register again, you'll just click on login, and you'll start in your account management screen. So everybody, go ahead and do that. I'll pause for a second. And people who are still having an issue with activating their account, go ahead and give that a shot. If you're having a problem, let's see. And Mariah, okay. Let me see if I can. All right. So if anyone is having a problem logging in right now, type something into the chat box, and Steve and Frank, if you could make sure we handle that. And I see, Mariah, you're joined on mute. You know what I'm going to try to do here? Well, no, I see that. All right. I don't know. Technology's made to drive us nuts. Okay.
And just to reinforce Frank's message here, you should definitely go in and review all the FAQs. There's a very limited number of them, but
only 7. There's only 7 FAQs, guys. And
being familiar with them make your life a lot easier.
Right. I mean, we're always amazed, but human nature is what it is, and we're guilty of it too. I will spend hours banging my head against a wall, trying to figure something out, because most online documentation is frickin' awful. We all know it, and I'm going to brag, and I'm going to say we have spent an enormous amount of time making our documentation easy, to the point, and cutting out all the excess words. So the 7 frequently asked questions, there's not 110 FAQs, there's 7 of them. And over the last 7 years, these are the questions that always come up. Guarantee every single one of you will need the answer while I'm rattling on here. Wherever you are in the app, and you can see my screen, right? So wherever you are in the app, there's only 3 screens in this app. There's the account management screen, there's the edit screen, and there's the simulate screen. But any one of those 3, you look in the upper right corner, there are your navigation buttons. You click that blue help, and it will open up the online guide in the table of contents, and everything you need will be right there. And of course, if I just click up here, FAQs, here they are, and I won't read them because you can read them. But here they are. Which browsers can I use? Like number 2, guarantee every single one of you are going to, after you, kind of start to get the hang of it, you're going to, wait a minute. And then you go, number 2. And you're going to go, hey, I found a bug. Check number 2. It's not a bug. We did it deliberately just to make life difficult for you. There's these 7, those are the ones. You'll know, you click on it. And again, to the point, chop, chop, chop. We don't want to waste your time. So anyway, check those out. So I'm guessing that everyone has been able to log in now, and we're ready to roll. The first thing we'll do is when I click on that view library, so I got a whole bunch of, you can see all of these case studies. You're welcome to import all of them, look at any of them, do whatever you wish. In your classes, I think most of you will be using Cincinnati Seasonings if you're in Frank or Mariah's class. Jim Bryant's class is using the collaborative supply chain. We'll probably work with Cincinnati tonight just because I think most of you are there, but everything you see as Cincinnati works the same as any of the other cases at all. And when we say supply chains of the Roman Empire, we mean supply chains of the Roman Empire. Check it out. All right. I'm going to click on import to import a copy of the Cincinnati Seasonings. I'm going to call it, I'll just call it, Cincy Mike. You can call it anything you want. And then as the weeks go by, I'll call it, Cincy Mike week 1, Cincy Mike week 2. So every week I'll be saving a copy of what I've done. Now I'm going to click save, and I'll save a copy of that. I can go right here. There's 100 ways to do everything, deliberately so. I'm going to show you the most easy and obvious ways, but as you become more of a power user, you'll be able to amaze and delight your friends. So I'm going to go back to my account. And there it is, Cincy Mike. Now all I'm ever going to do now is edit that model of the supply chain and then run the simulation and see how well that model performs. Also, I can save and I can delete. And Mariah is saying make sure, and we will. We're going to show you how to save every week, and actually even while you're working on it. Saving is important because sometimes the files will get corrupted and you want to be able to restore from a backup. So I'm going to click on edit, and we're going to open the edit screen, and we're going to load Cincy Mike, whatever you're calling Cincinnati Seasonings. Mariah is also saying you guys are probably going to be making changes. There's no undo button in this app. So when you do make those changes, before you make a big change, like, before you maybe blow away a whole route or, move a facility or something, change a copy so you can restore if your change didn't work out as well as you had expected. Actually, saving as you're working is super easy. Here we go. If I click on that options button right there, everyone should just go ahead and click on options on your own app. You're going to get these choices right here. You can start a new supply chain project. You can edit the name, and this is where I would call it Cincy Mike week 1, Cincy Mike week 2. So maybe what I'll do first, I'm going to go and I'm going to edit the name, and we'll call it Cincy Mike week 1, and I'll update that. And then as I'm working along, like I say, before I make any big changes, if I click on options here again, the other one is create a save state. A save state is a save state, of course. A save state is a backup copy of your model. So I'm going to click on that, and it'll save it for a moment, and it says done there. Now, if I was to just quickly flip back to my my account screen. Now I got a lot of stuff here, but your account screen is broken into two parts. Your active models up on the top, and your save states on the bottom. So if I scroll down to the bottom, there's my save state, Cincy Mike week 1. There it is. To restore it, click restore. And then we'll get into this later, but you can also download models and send them to your professor, or send them to, I know you're all geographically dispersed, but one of the cool things is if you're working in teams, you can send your models to each other, and then you can load those models and make changes and send them back, and highly collaborative process. So I'm going to open that edit screen again on our model. Now, notice that I have a tab. It's all about flipping back and forth between your browser tabs. I have a tab open with my online guide. I'm gonna scroll down in the table of contents to where it says commercial supply chain case studies, and the very first one is called Cincinnati Seasonings. If you're working on collaborative, there's collaborative, etc. So I'm going to click on Cincinnati Seasonings, and it'll open up the introduction. Again, we've gotten a lot of feedback on this, so we think that the words here are all helpful, and there's not just a lot of blah, blah, blah. So take a moment to scan through this, and it's basically going to lay out the first 3 challenges, and then from there it becomes very interactive with your professor and your classmates, and we'll talk about how each of your individual simulations will start to take on its own trajectory depending on the things that you do. So I'm going to go back to my edit screen. When we talk about the 4 entities, the heart of the matter, the essence of these simulations, here they are: products, facilities, vehicles, and routes. When I click on Spicy Cube, there's only one product in this right now for the time being. Those of you working on the collaborative supply chain, you'll notice there's a lot more products. But what you do when you click on a product is it opens up a dialog box. And as logistics people, supply chain folks, all we need to know is name, price, cube, weight, and volume. That's all I need to know. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not a manufacturing guy. I'm not a sales manager. I'm not the guy that needs to know 110 different things about some product. Yo, I'm the supply chain dude. So these are all I need to know. And that's, so we stick with that. I'm going to close that window. Now I'm going to open up another, we're going to drop down to facilities. And here are the facilities. I can also see them there on the map. When I click on one of the facilities, it opens a dialog box. You'll notice that every time I click on an entity, it'll open a dialog box. Again, it shows me, again, I'm not a store manager, I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, I'm not 110 other things that needs a zillion data points about this. I'm a logistics guy. Here's what I need to know. So it's my storage capacity that's available in that facility, my rent cost. So, as my storage goes up, my rent would go up, and vice versa. My operating cost, which is basically my non-rent expense. We can track carbon, but we're not tracking carbon in this particular case. Then I can see my demand per day for the Spicy Cube in Fort Wayne is 20. I can see my on hand is 800. If I click on other entities, it does the same thing. So I can kind of quickly flip through. If I want to know where are the vehicles and the delivery routes in my supply chain model, it'll show me. It'll show me when I click on a facility that has vehicles and delivery routes that originate at that facility. So the DC, aka the distribution center, is where I have put all my trucks. We're using a hub and spoke model where the hub is the DC and the spokes are the delivery routes that run out to the stores. When I have clicked on a facility that does have vehicles, and I can see it, I know it right there, then I can go down to vehicles and go, oh, look, there are the vehicles. So we've got 4 trucks that are currently based there at the DC. Where do those trucks go? Well, let's see. I'll click on truck number 2. I can see truck number 2 runs down to Louisville. You guys should be doing this on your own. If you haven't already, most of you already have, but anyway. truck number 4 there is a multi-stop route. It's not just going one place. It's going to Indy. It's going up to Fort Wayne and then coming back to the DC. Truck number 1 is also running down to Louisville. So very quickly, I get a sense of how does my supply chain work? We know what are the different segments there. Once I've clicked on a vehicle, and every vehicle must have one or more routes in your model, I can see, all right, here's the vehicle, here's the route that truck number 1 is running. And I'm going to turn off some of these other boxes here. Well, here's my vehicle box, and here's my route information. So I can see here's the time that it takes, the distance, given that I said here's the speed of my truck right there. I do the math, time and distance, those are round trip numbers. I can see what the truck will carry. Its carry volume is 40 cubic meters. And remembering the product was 1 cubic meter in size, which is basically a pallet load. When you talk about products in the supply chain, you don't mean as they say in the warehouse, we ain't talking about eaches, we're talking about cases. So we've had people, for instance, create their own supply chains and track individual bottles of herbal tea across a global supply chain. You can do that. It's just insane, and there's no point in that. And having billions and billions of bottles doesn't really help. So obviously what you would be doing is you would be tracking things typically at the pallet load level, even at the 40-foot case, 40-foot shipping case level, although in both of the supply chain examples, you'll be tracking them at the pallet load or shipping case level. When you look at this, again, I can see that I'm dropping off 20 down there when I run down to Louisville. So we know a little bit about that supply chain. We've and whenever you're working on your supply chain, if you want to redraw your supply chain, now what the heck was it again? Just click your browser refresh. It'll it'll close out your boxes, redraw this supply chain for you. And then what we'll do is we'll click on the simulation button in the upper right corner of your screen. Everyone is seeing that. Click on that. We'll take a break after. We'll run this simulation and we'll pause and we'll take questions. So we have done that. We've clicked on that simulation button. It opens up another browser tab, and we're going to be flipping back and forth between our edit screen and our simulate screen from here on out. And to play the simulation, again, I look in the upper right corner. There's a button labeled play. I'm going to click on play, and it will start to play. We've deliberately built some pitfalls into both of the simulations, this and collaborative, just to engage you and start, getting your creative juices flowing and figuring out what the heck should we do. So here's the first problem, and I'm going to pause right now. This would be a good time to, and Frank and Steve, I know you've been monitoring the chat box. Do we have some questions?
Frank has asked that you later in the demonstration show how to move a plant, a manufacturing plant, as well as how to create a new retail location, and develop the transportation route for delivery to it.
All right. I think what we'll do is we'll just jump to creating a new store up in Chicago. So all right, we'll get to that. Are there any other questions? Go ahead and Mariah, I think you are now online. Can you hear me? I think we can.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Good. All right. So, and Mariah, I'm also going to make you an organizer, so you can also then watch the chat box. There you go. Okay. Good. So we have a lot of eyes on the chat box. We will not miss your questions. So I can.
All right. Well, Frank is asking you to go ahead and show how you make it past the first interruption that occurs.
Okay. So.
And after you do that, Michael, Wilfred Dillard says, "Why is there a production per day tab?"
Okay. All right. Very good. What we're going to do, the first thing here, and this is where, especially as we get on into advanced degrees, we start to overthink things. And not that thinking is bad, thinking is good. But sometimes we make stuff more complicated than it really is. So what we encourage everyone to do when you first start playing with this simulation is do whatever you need to do to get to 30 days. And 30 days is the magic number, because once you get 30 days worth of data, you can download that data and start creating monthly P&L statements, because a month is 30 days. So that's our first goal, is get to 30 days. If I have not enough, and so here's my, sometimes it'll find more than one error depending on what you do. But anyway, we have found this one error, which is not enough storage capacity in the Fort Wayne store. Okay. Now, I am not showing you the right way, the only way, or even the most intelligent way, but I am showing you a down and dirty way to get to 30 days. There are better ways. And once you get to 30 days, and you look at that P&L statement and you realize, my God, we've lost a lot of money, you're going to circle back and start finding better ways, more efficient ways to run for 30 days at lower inventory, lower operating costs, lower transportation cost, all of that in due time. So what I'm going to do, in the name of throwing money at problems, my Fort Wayne store, I ran out of space. Therefore, with the application of cash, I am simply going to call up a public warehouse, rent more space, and store my overload, my product overflow for the time being. So if I just say, you know what, I'm going to make that 850 cubic meters of storage space into 1,600, and you guys can follow along, or you could do other things as well. Do whatever you want. You're typing over the number there. I'm going to click update now, and it'll update. I always forget to click update. If you don't click update, it won't update. I'm going to go back to the SIM tab. Notice that on my edit screen, there is another button here and so I can click on that. I can keep clicking on that. The problem will be is that you'll wind up getting like about 100 little tabs open, and they'll all have the simulate screen, and it'll start running slower and slower and slower. So that's why we're saying just flip back and forth between those two. Now that button right there says reload your supply chain. I'm going to click on that. It will reload the supply chain with the changes that I just made in my edit screen, and we'll run it again. So we deliberately built 3 pitfalls into this. There are many ways to respond to this. I could have delivered less product up there in Fort Wayne. There's 100 different ways to respond. Some work better than others. All ways are not equal. I'm going to click on play. We're going to run this again. Now, as it's running, you can click on these different tabs. This is showing me real-time data, running costs for my vehicles. I'm going to click on products. I can see where my products are running out, where they're building up, unit and dollar volume. When I click on console, this is where it's collecting all this data day after day. Our simulation is actually, we're calculating the sim engine is, and as I start to flip through here, I can see what's going on in the different locations. Like Louisville, looks like, we're headed for the bottom here. We're not delivering enough product in Louisville. I suspect we're going to have a problem in Louisville. And lo and behold, we do have a problem in Louisville. On day 7, we went negative. We needed 20 more than what we had on hand. Whenever you encounter a problem, it'll open up a little window and say, at the moment of impact, here's what was going on at that particular facility. Our simulation engine calculates hour by hour. Early on in one of the earlier editions of our app, we delivered that daily or that hourly information. Obviously, time is sped up in our simulations, but when we deliver an hourly flow of data, it's a massive, bewildering flow of numbers. It doesn't tell you very much. So what we have done here is we have aggregated, and what you're seeing is daily. These are 24-hour snapshots. So sometimes, in the middle of the day, boom, something will happen. There you are. We open that window. You can check it out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one other thing, knowing this app as I do, and we'll get it to run for 30 days. I'm just going to kind of doctor it up. And again, I'm not showing you any secrets because these are down and dirty ways to make things happen. You all can find better ways, but this is illustrating one way. Another thing I could have said, like I said earlier, my problem up there in Fort Wayne was, hey, don't send as much product up there. Instead of adding more space, send less product. So anyway, my problem, when I look back at we keep that sim tab open so you can always look back and see, now what the heck was it that I had this problem with? Oh, I ran out of Spicy Cube in Louisville. All right, now I'm going to go back to my edit screen where I'm going to edit my model. This is my supply chain model. It is a rigorous mathematical model because we're not just using any map, we're using Google Maps. It's a smart map. And if I zoom in, for instance, when we talk about Cincinnati Seasonings, obviously, is a make-believe company, but it's a realistic supply chain in the sense that these facilities are put in real locations where you would actually expect a factory, a warehouse, a store. You know, I could have put the factory in the middle of the Ohio River. The software will not prevent me from doing that. The question is, of course, why did you put it in the middle of the Ohio River? That seems silly, but you can do whatever you want. I'm going to close out some of these boxes here. I'm going to click on this satellite, upper left corner. I'm going to click on satellite. It'll open up the satellite view. So this is Google Earth now. We're into Google Earth. As I zoom in more and more, you know, I come right down and, you know, look at that. This is an industrial park. This is not a place where I would find a factory that was smelting iron ore, but this is a place where I would find a food processing factory, which is what Cincinnati Seasonings is. As I pull back a little bit, I can see it's near a big freight rail yard. You know, look, there's a lot of, you know, light manufacturing and distribution activity going on. You can just see it right there. When I pull back a little bit further, and I think when you get up high in the air, the map view is an easier way to cope with visual clutter. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look at where we put the DC, for instance. And again, the DC, you know, what does best practice tell you about locating a DC? Put it on the outskirts of town and a transportation node so you have multiple shipping options and your trucks don't get stuck in downtown traffic. Now, your professor can say that. You can write it down. He can ask you on a test question. You can write it back to him. You'll all be absolutely correct, and no one will have a clue what the hell they're talking about. So what we like to do with these models is, you know, seeing is believing. Picture is worth 1,000 words. I turn on the satellite view. Obviously, I am near a transportation node because there's the intersection of two major highways. And lo and behold, as I continue to zoom in, I notice there's a smaller freight rail yard right there as well. And again, this is where a lot of companies have real distribution centers. Look at all the trucks, look at all the parking lots. This is, so there you are. Realistic in that sense. Now, what I'm going to do, in the name of doctoring things up, is we're going to go, since we know that our challenge here, go back to the map view, is get more product down to Louisville. My trucks are based at the DC, so and I could do a lot of things. I could hire a truck in Louisville and have it run up to Chicago, or, you know, have it run up to Fort Wayne and pull up some of that excess product out of Fort Wayne if I want to. I can do anything. This will calculate the cost, and you'll find out, because the best solution will be most cost effective as well. So I'm going to go to the DC. I'm going to look at those trucks. Now, which were the trucks that went down there? Let's see. Truck number 2, and I'm going to pull back a little bit just so I don't get too far down into the weeds. And so truck number 2 looks like it's going to Louisville. And again, just quickly flip through. No, that I don't need to worry about that. No, that's the multi-stop route. And truck number 1 also running down to Louisville. So I got 2 trucks running to Louisville. How come I ran out of product? Okay, I check out truck number 1. Here it is. I'm going to close the DC dialog box, but I am interested in the vehicle itself. It's a small truck, carry volume of 40, meaning I could get 40 of those spicy cubes on there. Operate, you know, its speed. Delay between departure means it's going to run its route, it's going to go back to the DC, wait for 22 hours, run its route again. When I look at the other truck that runs down there at number 2, I notice it also is a small truck. Again, in the interest of just getting something down and dirty, I'm going to make it a large truck. Notice now that the default values, your average, your carry volume in a 53-foot trailer on the back of an 18-wheeler is 110 cubic meters. Actually, it's 113, but we'll just keep it simple. It's 110. So I'm going to update truck number 2. It's now going to be a large truck. So when I click on truck number 2, again, there it is. Now I'm going to go to the route for that one. There it is. I was dropping 20 down there. When I look at my sim screen, I see what I need down there. My demand per day is 100. There it is. So I am going to deliver 100 because I have capability of doing that. If I overload the truck, it will catch me and prevent me, but 100 it will handle. So I'm going to put in 100. I'm going to click update. I'm moving along smartly. So if people are feeling like I'm going too fast, don't let me get away with it. Ask questions, type questions into the dialogue, into the chat box. So you see what I've done there. When I look at that, again, you know, I'm dropping 100 down there. And while I'm at it, I'm thinking to myself, I don't need 2 trucks running down there. Truck 2 is going to handle the whole thing. So if I go back and take a look at truck number 1, I don't need it. I'm going to click on the remove. I'm going to remove it. Obviously, that'll save me a little bit of operating expense right there. Remove that truck and its related routes. So now I'm going to go flip back over to the SIM tab. I'm going to click on reload that supply chain. It will reload the supply chain. I'm going to click play. Now there's one other problem here that we'll find. And now also I can make the simulations run faster. I think it's a good idea, and I know that we all are addicted to speed, but I think it's a good idea at first to run slowly, just so you get a sense of how this supply chain is working. But, you know, maybe by the 10th or 12th time, maybe you want to speed it up a little bit. When you say, you know, make your speed run faster, it will run faster. Anyway, so we've found the last problem. Here it is, not enough storage capacity in the seasonings factory. Now, part of the reason why we think it's a great idea to run slowly at first, savor your food, enjoy the taste, is to get a sense of how this supply chain is working. As I flip through, notice how I'm showing you, I would say, every supply chain manager I have ever met, bar none, basically runs their business, their section of the supply chain with 4 or 5 key indicators. And then if something goes in one of those key indicators goes out of whack, then they want to know a whole lot more data, a lot more detail. But one of their favorite indicators is inventory on hand day by day, and what is the trend, up or down or flat. So that's what we're showing you here, and you get a sense of how the inventory. Notice it's flat there in Louisville because we've met the daily demand with what we're delivering, so that's flat. Flat is good. You start to be able to read these. This is generally going up, and the shape means something. We'll get to it later, but you get a sense of, you know, whenever you see the lines going up, you're delivering too much product out there. So you can always circle back later and deal with that, make it more efficient. But our problem now is not enough storage capacity in the seasonings factory. Now, instead of just throwing money at the problem, which we did earlier with the Fort Wayne problem, what I might decide to do, since I have been running slowly and I'm forming that mental model of my supply chain, and notice, yeah, my on hand on the factory is going up. Yep, it's caused me a problem. But look, my on hand at the DC is going down, and the DC is actually got the lowest cost rent, and it's where I deliver all my product to the stores. So I really do want to concentrate product at the DC. That's what DCs are for. I can move more product out of the factory and put it in the DC instead of just renting more space for the factory. Let's do that. So I'm going to go to my edit screen. I'm going to click on facilities. All of you guys should be doing this along with me, just to kind of get the hang of it here. And there are better ways. I'm not showing you the secret moves here at all. This is like down and dirty. All right, I'm going to go, when I click on factories, you're seeing, oh yeah, look, there's a truck, a little shuttle truck. Buzzing back and forth between factory and the DC. So I'm going to click on the truck, and I check it out. Okay, it's a medium size. I'm going to close that out. So here's the truck. Medium sized, meaning it can carry 60 of those. It's running every 8 hours, so it's like 3 times a day. So it's basically, let's see, what does the route tell me when I click on the route there? It is dropping off 30 every time it runs. So, you know, it's running about. It tells me that the time it takes to run this is basically about a third of an hour. So it's running about 3 times a day. At this point, it's only moving 90 every day between the factory and the DC. When I go back to my SIM tab and I click on the factory, I can see my production rate is 350. So obviously, yeah, I'm not keeping up with production. I'm not moving it fast enough. So again, in the interest of just a down and dirty solution, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, let's make that a big truck. I could also say, hey, let's make it run twice as fast. Like I could cut the delay between departure to 4 hours instead of 8 hours, or I could make it 2 hours. And you could make it 0, which would be like a perpetual motion machine. It's up to you to do things that are realistic. We're not here to judge what you're doing. We're here to do the thousands of calculations and show if that were possible, this is what would happen. A delay between departure of 0 is not possible. So, if you do it and anyone looks at your model, they're going to find out, hey, you're cooking the books. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going
to Mike, before you move on, while
yeah.
you still have that factory to DC box open,
yep.
There's the question of what are the red X's in the boxes?
Yeah. If we had, every time you have a facility, you have to assign products. There's no reason to have a facility without having products there. So there's only one product in this supply chain model, which is the spicy cube. But if I click that red X, it will, it'll, kill it. Like, click it. Boom. We have no product in this, on this route. So what I'm going to do is, and you'll see this when we open the new store in Chicago. I'm going to click on product here, and I'm going to say, let's deliver 100, because we can fit that into our new truck. And not 1,000. If I say, oh yeah, pack 1,000 in there, it's going to go, no, Mike, you can't do that. Oh, and we still have an old, our truck is only going to handle 60. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say, what did we have before? I think we had like 30. I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to change it. But anyway, I click on that. So there we are. If I now also, when we have multiple stops on a route and multiple products, I can eliminate individual products, or I can eliminate entire stops by clicking. So the big red X will eliminate an entire stop from a route. The little X will deliver a product from a stop. So I'm going to click update on that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that truck a big truck, the truck 1 here. It's currently a medium size. I'm just going to say, make it large, please. I'm going to click update. I'm going to go to, so I'm going to select that vehicle now. I'm going to select its route, and I'm going to say, let's just max out that truck. We can fit 110 on there. And again, if I try to stuff more on, like stuff it in there, really jam it in there, 112, do it. It's going to say, no, you can't, Mike. So I'm going to make it, I will max out the truck though. I'm going to go 110 and update that. And then I am going to click simulation. And now we will have a down and dirty model that will run for 30 days. And then we're going to explore 2 very cool things: opening new stores and running up new, creating vehicles and creating new routes to service those stores. And then also downloading our data and creating monthly P&L and key performance indicators. So now again, I'm just gonna make this thing run real fast. I'm gonna click play, and I'm gonna pull back a little bit. You can see this start to buzz along. So you can see, and again, it's always cool to click through and see what's happening. I mean, literally that mental model is very. Here, let's go back and take a look at Louisville. Notice that. Boom, what is that? Qu'est-ce que c'est? What just happened there? We'll get to that. Everything has a reason. So I can see where we're going here. Every time I see a generally upward sloping line, I'm delivering too much. Every time I see a downward sloping line, I'm not delivering enough. Every time I see a flat line, it's good, but occasionally And there's where FAQ number 2 comes in, because you could spend hours banging your head against a wall and getting really upset and then saying angry things, or you could check out the answer to FAQ number 2. While we're talking, people, check out the answer to FAQ number 2. All right, last problem here, except look, I'm going to say okay, all supply chains, end sometime. But when I roll my cursor along the dots there, we got out to day 35, so we're good. We hit 35. We passed that 30-day mark, so that's a wrap. And now what I might do right now is from my edit screen, I'm going to click on options, and I'm going to we got that supply chain name there, and it's named week 1. So I'm just going to create a save state. Now I'll have 2 save states, but they'll have different timestamps on them. So I'll know what the most recent one is. So now here's my solution for week 1. It's as the White Sox here in Chicago used to say, it's winning ugly, but you did get to 30 days. So now I'm going to go back to the sim screen. And whenever your simulation either finds a problem and stops, or when we ran, sometimes you'll find it, you get a great solution. It'll hit 30 days and keep right on going. You don't have to wait for it to find something to stop. You can click on the stop button right there. So either way, whether it finds a problem and stops, or you click on stop, this button will appear. Export results to Excel. And by Excel, we mean that generically, like Kleenex. What it's going to do is it's going to download simulation data as a CSV file, comma-separated value file. If I click on it, it will open it up in a spreadsheet. You can open it up in any spreadsheet known to the modern world. Every spreadsheet can read a CSV file. And when I kind of open up this data a little bit, we can look at it. Now, everything I'm saying, absolutely everything, is in the online guide, more coherently expressed and much more clearly expressed. So what I'm going to do, for instance, is, and again, I'm just going to say, hey, Mike said it was easy to find stuff. What am I looking for? I'm trying to analyze simulation data. Now, where the heck would I go? Analyze simulation data. Maybe that's a place where I could find information about analyzing simulation data. Plus, that link is scattered throughout on every single page, sometimes twice on every single page in the Getting Started section. So again, it's easy to find stuff. I won't go through everything here, but you can see what is there. And again, scan it quickly. Always come back to the online guide when you feel you need to know more. Here's a little discussion about how you read those charts. This is from a case study that has 3 products, but it's always the same. These things mean something, and here's what they mean right there. Now, as you scroll down, you're going to come to this section right here. Download simulation data to reporting spreadsheet, a template. That's what you want to do. We've got now 35 days worth of data, which we just downloaded. You saw that. Now, I'm not going to read again because you can read. Everything is illustrated with screenshots. Click on the screenshot, you'll get a bigger image. We're going to trim that off. We actually want to run a few days past 30, just so we get a good, clean sample there, and we'll just trim it off. And we show, use the edit delete, don't just delete, because you want to literally remove those rows. So anyway, it's all laid out super clear right there. And when you do that, you're just going to download a copy, and I'll show you where you can download a copy of the reporting template. I'm going to click on this. So and then you'll note when you download the copy that there are 2 tabs. The front tab has the equations that produce your P&L and your KPIs. The back tab is where you just cut and paste your sim data. Easy peasy. So here's what you got. And when you look at it, I can see right away, for instance, this 30 days in the solution that I ran, I managed to lose $1.5 million and some change. So no one's going to be super impressed with those results, but now I have information that I can analyze and start figuring out where do I want to make improvements to my supply chain. And if you're an eagle-eyed accountant, you're going to eat this stuff up. If you're a pretty smart logistics person, you're going to start looking at this. You'll combine that with the KPIs here, and you'll start to notice stuff like, what the heck is going on in Fort Wayne? Look at all this. We got 55.8 in some days of inventory on hand out there. That's outrageous. Our rent costs to store all that stuff, of course, are way out of line. And for that, the store is managed to lose $30,000 this month, whereas my other stores were actually making some money. So obviously, my attention is immediately drawn to Fort Wayne for various reasons. As I start to analyze this, make changes to my model, continue to run the simulation, this P&L will start to improve, and it will lead me in a way which will start to make me look good in the eyes of the accounting and finance people, which is always a good thing to do. So what I'm going to do, as you scroll down a little bit further, right there, it says that link, get copy of monthly P&L reporting template here. If I click on that, which I just did, and you all should be doing the same, because you'll all need a copy of this. It's going to take you to a Google Docs sheet on our site. And sometimes we get these emails from people saying, oh, I need to have edit access, but you don't actually. Everything is, we've really tried to make stuff as obvious as we can. So when in doubt, just take a moment, check out, read a few things. When it says download a copy of that spreadsheet, it means you can download a copy to your own PC and then do anything you want. You can make any changes, and you will need to make changes. So it says right there, click on that Word file. All of you guys should be doing this as I'm talking here. Click on that Word file. I'm going to click on it, and it says, oh, I can download. I'm going to download it as an Excel spreadsheet because, again, every spreadsheet, I believe, in the modern world can read and write a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. You can open it up inside of Apple. You can open it up inside of Google, et cetera, et cetera. So there it is. I just downloaded it. When I click on it, now this is on my own PC. Here's my SIM data. It's on my PC. And now here is a copy of that reporting template. It's also on my PC. There's some notes here about what's going on. Check out those notes and then blow them away, erase them. Who the heck needs them? Just to know what's going on. We also let you know that we have set the rent costs in the facilities higher than market rates. Why? Well, because we don't want you to save your way to greatness. What you're going to find is you can't quite make a profit the way this model is currently set up. Saving your way to greatness is maybe okay if you're working with a multi-billion-dollar corporation and you sell off some divisions and stuff like that, all those massive cool finance things. But if you're just a regular guy and you're trying to figure out how do we make money, you know how you make money? You make money by selling more products, opening more stores. So that's what this is kind of forcing you to do, and that's why we're going to open more stores. And as you open more stores, you're going to be selling more product, and you're going to be making money, and you'll become profitable. So again, that's what. And notice there's two tabs here. If I click on one of the tabs, I can see. This is Spreadsheets 101. You can see where the data is coming from. I can see where I'm reading it, off of the different, like in the back right here, the SIM data. Here's all that SIM data. And notice I've trimmed it. Here's what it looks like. I put it in there, and so there you are. Now,
so Mike,
yes.
Mike, we're down to the last few minutes.
All right, we're gonna go to. I will very quickly show people how to start if we want to open a new store, and here's again where if you go back to the online guide and the introduction to Cincinnati seasonings, and that second challenge, there is actually you're going to open two more stores. We'll just open one here, but you can see what's happening. We got here's the Chicago store, a little bit about how you want to open it up, how you want to set that up. And then there's the Columbus store. For the Chicago store, we have an actual address. For Columbus, you'll locate it, and you will select a place that seems to be a realistic location. But we have an actual address here in Chicago, so there it is. If I just literally copy that address, if I go back to my edit screen, notice in the upper left corner, search location. If I paste that in there, and then Google Maps is going to say, did you mean that? And I would say, yeah, that's what I meant. So I click on it, and it takes me right there. There's a Trader Joe's store there at the moment. We can see that. I'm going to pull back a little bit. I'm going to go to my satellite view again. And I can see, again, this is a realistic location. Obviously, Cincinnati Seasonings is somewhat like Trader Joe's. So these are real locations. I actually live only about 10 blocks away from where you're looking right there. Later, and then, as we start to talk about how we're going to provide that store with products, the answer, people say, can I send a big truck? Can I send a little truck? Could I send a helicopter? The answer is take a look and then tell me why you can do what you've decided to do. When I look here, I can see what looks like is a bit of a blurry image, but looks like a large truck, come in and out of that loading dock there. If the roof was strong, I could probably land a helicopter on the roof. It might be kind of expensive to do that, but and then literally, if I want to check out the loading dock, I can drag and drop. I can go into the street view. We all know it's there, but we never use it. It's kind of cool when we do. I'm going to go into the alley behind that store. Now I'm in the alley behind that store. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to take a look at the loading dock. There's the loading dock right there. You tell me, can I get an 18-wheeler in there? You tell me. I don't know. You tell me. Maybe yes, maybe no. I'm going to say you can. So I'm going to go back to here. Now I know I can send a big truck up there. If this was a little store in the middle of a downtown neighborhood, no, I couldn't send an 18-wheeler up there. I would have to send a smaller truck, or I'd have to open a DC outside of Chicago and do a break bulk and all sorts of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the map view. If I want to add a new facility, and adding any entity is always the same. So add a new facility. I go to facilities. I click on new because it's a new facility. I call it the Chicago store. I can call it anything I want, of course. Type. There are many different types for vehicles and routes and facilities. They come with defaults. So I can copy over them. When I look here and I see Cincinnati was supposed to have on hand of 100, or a daily demand of 100, on hand of 300, storage capacity of 500. Okay. I'm going to go to my edit screen. So we said that all looks good. I'm going to add product. And if there are multiple products, there would be all here. There's only one. We said our daily demand in Chicago is going to be 100. We said our on-hand amount we're going to open that store with 300 from on hand. That looks good. I'm going to say add, and then I want, and there's my little thing. There's my, when I looked for that store address, here it is. So put it where it really is. It's right there. If I click there, so there's my new Chicago store. I'm going to say save, and it has now saved it. Now I can do 101 different things. How do I want to get product up there? I could assign one of the trucks that I already have a second route. You'll experiment with all that stuff. In the interest of time, what I'm going to do, I could have a truck in Chicago and have it run down to maybe Fort Wayne and pick up, like I said, I can do anything I want. What you'll find is that best practices that you're hearing in your lectures and readings are usually the best way to go, and the simulation will show you that. They work better. So I'm going to go to my DC. I'm going to continue with the hub and spoke concept. Actually, best practice would probably be make better use of your existing fleet, but I'm just going to say let's bring in a new truck. So instead of just trying to add another route to one of those right there, I'm going to say let's have a new. I'm going to click on new for a new vehicle. I'll call it the Chicago truck. I'm going to make it large, so I'm going to just take the defaults that come with that. My departure, like I said, 0 time between departures is unrealistic. It'll make things will look great, but it's a nonsense thing to do. So I'll say 24 hours. What the heck? Do that. Update. So I'm going to select that truck, and then we don't have a route. So how do I make a new route? Yes, I click on the new button, and I'll call this the DC to Chicago route. I think it's always good to have a little bit of discipline in your naming conventions just so you can make sense of your data as this gets more complicated. I can send the truck to any already defined facility. Chicago is the one I want, so I say add stop. I add that. We're going to pick what looks like the best route, here's the going up, and then it's going the other way as it goes around Indy. If I wanted to move that, if I knew maybe in Lafayette there was a problem and I want to drag and drop, see where I can, that little black thing, I can drag and drop. I can move it out like that. See, and I'm moving, moving the going there this way. Like, see how I'm doing that, like that. Now here's the coming back. Right? If I want to have it come back the same way, I can pull that over there too as well. Maybe I really want to skirt all that nonsense that's going on over there. There we go. It's pretty, close is close enough. Don't agonize over the details. There we are. I'm now going to add product because there's no reason to have a route without product. Spicy Cube. We're running up to Chicago. We know there's a demand of 100. I can deliver 100 because I got a big truck. I'm going to say 100. 100. I'm going to say add that. I'm going to click update. And then I am going to click on my browser refresh, redraw this supply chain, and the last thing we'll run the sim again. But you can see now I have added a new route segment to my supply chain. If I go back to the sim tab and click reload and run it, so there you are. I hope I hope what you're starting to say is, you know what, the software is not that hard to use, but thinking about the software is easy. The supply chain challenge is hard, and that's how it should be. We don't want you to waste time thinking about the freaking software. We want the software to become a transparent assistant, seen but not heard, not bothering you, but always available to do the thousands of calculations that show you how well your ideas work. I'm going to click on play. I might also say, hey, you know what? Run this fast. So I'm going to click on fastest, and away we go. There you are. Okay.
We want you to enjoy using the software. Mike, we need to give Mariah and Jim and Frank a chance to put in their comments here before the end.
Okay, the floor is yours, guys. Frank, you want to start?
Well, I just want to thank all the attendees tonight. I think this is an excellent session, and we'll be discussing the weekly results in each discussion. And one of the features also allows you to download your saved state as a JSON file, which you can then also post in your weekly discussion to show other people, if they want to open it, how you performed your simulation for that week. So with that, Mariah, do you have any comments?
Just reiterate, thanks to everyone for coming. Thanks to Michael for putting together this valuable session for us again. Also, save. Take lots of screenshots. It's going to help you once that final paper comes around.
And yes, anyone can attend Thursday in the evening if you'd like to attend another session.
Right. And again, I can't emphasize enough that everything we have shown you here is presented more clearly and coherently in the online guide. It is always there with the blue help button. There's 100 ways to find everything. Go through the getting started and then learn the rest. Getting started in FAQs, then learn the rest as you need to know. When you start to feel puzzled, when you start to feel anxious or angry, first look in the online guide. You will find an answer there. If you can't, send us an email. We don't want to discuss the course itself or the case itself with you, but if you have technical problems, we will get back to you quickly. If you have questions about the case and the course, obviously that's for your instructor and your classmates. All right, I guess that is a wrap. So thank you all for attending, and good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Thank you.